this computer. Okay, everyone, welcome. Thank you. Today is another really special guest lecture by Dr. Shaomei Wu, a dear friend and collaborator for many years. And today she gonna come to give us a talk about her organization. She's a founder, CEO at tech non-profit organization based in Silicon Valley called AImpower. Here we go. I want to hand the floor to Dr. Shaomei Wu.
Hi, thank you. Thank you so much for the warm intro. Let me start sharing my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, perfectly.
You see the full screen? Does
Mm-hmm.
not contain my notes, right?
No,
Okay, sounds
no.
good. Okay. Yeah, hi. Guys, first of all, I feel so honored to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me to kind of share our work on Empower, on supporting people who started to build more fair and inclusive speech AI technology for stuttering. I know you guys have been kind of reading about in I think uh, biases and fairness in this week's reading. So I hope my work kind of show you another kind of sign of those the in AI biases, like in terms of speech. So first of all, I'm gonna share a little bit about myself. As Professor Chanarong has said, I'm the founder and the CEO of AImpower. And before AImpower, I worked at Facebook for a long time, leading various AI fairness and accessibility work. And also, I want to be transparent that I do have a stutter myself. I stutter a little bit more in kind of presentations compared to in a kind of more private settings. And also when I stutter, I tend to use more filler words and have more speech repetitions. So those are the things that you are gonna hear in the next 1 hour. But then that being said, I'm so happy to be here and then to kind of share with you how I talk, and I hope that can also in some way kind of uh, in, uh, publicize what stuttering sounds like, and to kind of and to help you to feel more comfortable later to speak with someone who stutter in your life. And I also want to share a little bit of background of AImpower, which is it's a non-profit organization I founded in 2022 after I left Facebook. So AImpower's mission is to research and co-create empowering technologies for, with, and by marginalized communities to remove barrier, create benefit, and foster equity. So far, our work has been funded by donations and the work by a lot of volunteers, as well as research grants from National Science Foundation, as well as Patrick J. McGovern Foundation. So we are thankful for those funding to kind of help us stay independent. So we work at the intersection of research and technology development, as well as social activism. So the vision is to really amplify the agency and the capacity of those who has been left behind, and to enable them to take charge of their own technological experiences. So our current focus has been at the intersection of stuttering and technology. And the reason for that is both because like my own background is stuttering, but also because stuttering is impact actually a large large number of the world population. It's actually estimated more than 1% of the people stutter, which account for more than 70 million people worldwide. So while typically it's understood as certain speech patterns, such as repeating word, or or like me, using a lot of filler words. But stuttering is actually much more complex than certain speech patterns. As neurological speech disabilities, there's no cure for stuttering, and the people who stutter, like me, often feel a lot of pressure to hide our stutter because of existing societal pressure and stigma. Stuttering is also inherently social and contextual. People who stutter actually, the kind of pattern changes a lot. Like for example, for me, how I stutter actually differ a lot. When I, like depends on who I am speaking to, and the kind of situations that I'm in. And also, as reported in previous works, people who stutter are often cut off and misunderstood and mistranscribed by current speech AI systems. So here I'm gonna show you how that looks like in reality. Does the sound work? Can you hear? Okay. Hmm. So here, as we can see, like the model actually make a lot of mistakes, such as those things marked in the red, because of the kind of patterns and the amount of differences that it's shown in the starter speech. So why does it happen? I want to first just kind of give a high level overview of how the current voice AI system works. Just and then hopefully you can get the sense of why they do not work for people who stutter. So in general, usually users speak, and then this speech is will be segmented by the end pointer component into sentences, and then those segments will be sent into the automatic speech recognition engine to transcribe to text, and then later this machine will generate a speech response based on the transcribed text output by the ASR engine. So let's dive into those three components. First is the end pointer, which is the model that's used to detect whether the user has finished speaking, as it's often tuned and trained to optimize for low latency. It tends to cut off people who stutter before we finish the sentence, especially when somebody have a speech block. For example, here, when somebody say play music, there will be a long pause, a silent block. That's often when the end pointer will cut off. Then within the ASR agent, it also have multiple components. One of them is called the acoustic model, which will extract and match acoustic features. It encode those low-level phonemes or other phonetic patterns. And then, as you can see here, because stuttering is so variable, like even with the same phrase, depends on how somebody stutter. They can have very diverse acoustic patterns. For example, the same phrase play music versus play music versus prolongation, which is play music. You can see how much those patterns differ from one another, which naturally create a lot of challenge for the acoustic model. And then also another part of the ASR engine is the language model, which I'm assume people has learned, has kind of have some idea of how it works, because there is a lot of especially with the kind of recent popularity of large language models. So basically, it just learn from a large body of text, and then to kind of come up with um, uh, statistical uh, prediction on what words can come, after the already processed word. So, for example, here, with a similar, if like if the acoustic model provide two candidate, one is set, one is sad. The language model is able to kind of add the weight to the SAT, where versus SAD based on based on what you have learned from the large body of text. So that process, it's what the kind of decoder does. Basically, it combined signal from acoustic model and the language model to come up with the sentence that is most probable. So how are those models? So how are those components trained? So the end pointer often lends the threshold for duration of silence and the end of sentence token based on speech from general populations, which are most likely fluent speech. And then the acoustic model is often trained on speech corpus, such as audiobooks data, which is often very much fluent, as well as common voice corpus, which contains a lot of crowdsourced readings of like books or some like sentences. And then the language model is often trained on a large set of text, which is often taken from Wikipedia, which contains very much fluent text, as well as web pages, which also has mostly fluent text. So here you can see that the lack of this fluent speech as well as text is largely limit those models' ability to kind of understand and respect speech differences. So to address those challenges, following the nothing about us without us principle, we have been working tightly with the stuttering community to address those challenges that they have with speech AI. So in the past year, we have collected one of the largest stutter speech corpus, which we then use to benchmark and diagnose popular speech models and improve those models through fine-tuning using our using our data set. So all of those work are conducted and led by people who stutter, as you can see in those papers that we have published. The names of the authors who stutter are in bold, including myself. So let's start with the stutter speech data. So there has been a few stutter speech data set already, but they all have various drawbacks. For example, the the like one of the most famous one. It's called Fluency Bank. But it contains only about 30 hours of speech, and it's mainly labeled to train speech therapist. And then Google has this project Euphonia, where they collect a large set of um, um, uh, um, um, uh, typical speech, but within that, only I think less than 1% is stuttering, and also I don't think they have shared um, uh, their data publicly. Yeah. And then also we have liberal stutter data set, which is a kind of mutation of the liberal speech audiobook speech data set, but they just injected synthetic stutter into those audiobook recordings. And then lastly, we have Apple recently released this data set called SEP28K, which contains recordings from stuttering related podcast. But it does not come with speech transcriptions, so make it very hard to use to train models. I also want to point out that all of those stutter speech data set are all in English. So non-English stutter speech in data, it's almost nowhere to find. So to fill in this gap, we work with Stammer Talk, which is a online community of Chinese-speaking people who stutter, to collect the first and the largest stutter speech data set in Chinese. So how was this data set created? Basically, we have two Stammer Talk volunteers to recruit and interview other people who stutter, and then they record those interviews. And in those interviews, they have both like free form conversations, as well as readings of some 200, I think, comment voice comment. So as a result, 70 people participated in those recording sessions, resulting in 50 hours of speech data. And then those recorded speech was annotated professionally under the supervision of people who stutter. So those speech was annotated verbatim, which means all those and R's and also the speech repetitions are preserved in the transcribed text. That is important to us because we want to have these options to have those model respect and show those stuttering moment. And let me just show you a little bit, give a kind of high level overview of how our how our data set compare with existing stutter speech data set in terms of scale and also diversity of stuttering patterns. So here, the X is like how many hours, and then the Y it's number of speakers. So as you can see, our stammer talk corpus largely like has a much greater scales compared to what whatever it's we have today. And then that is very important to train models, because now like all the models really depends on the more kind of data the better is to train those models. And then also we have captured kind of much natural and kind of diverse stuttering patterns. For example, compared to liberal stutter as well as SEP28K, our people stutter more frequently with in the stammer talk data set, especially when they have the free form conversations rather than when they are reading voice commands. You can also see just like as I say before, people the kind of pattern of stuttering changes depends on the context. So here we can also see that when like people tend to stutter more when they are talking to another person compared to when they are reading list of commands. And also we notice that in Chinese, we see a lot more kind of word level repetitions. This is perhaps due to the kind of linguistic pattern of Chinese, in which we have a lot more kind of words with fewer, like shorter words with like with fewer syllables. Okay. And so the process of collecting one of the largest stutter speech data set is painstaking. However, how do we kind of manage that? The top reason I think we were able to pull it off is that the people were not driven by kind of monetary games. Instead, they are highly motivated by intrinsic values such as connection to their such as connection to other people who stutter, as well as the kind of contributions they made to the stuttering community. So as you can see here, the top reason for people to participate in the data collection, it's how meaningful this work is, and how much they feel this kind of value of like to the stuttering to the stuttering community. And the least important reason, actually, like the monetary compensation has been kind of chosen as one of the least important reasons for them to participate. So as it's said by Le Wan, like one of the two people who conducted all those recordings, she say like she really wanna share the she wanna she wanna publicize her stutter because she wanna empower herself through stuttering, through kind of through kind of sing, see, sincerely owning this identity as a person who stutters. And indeed, actually, many of the participants actually finished this recording having a very positive experience, which is quite hard to see, if somebody participate in like some like research sessions. It's kind of usually it's hard to then to kind of complete this work feeling very happy. And like most of the folks in my past work, if they have to do 1 hour of recording, a lot of time, at least when I was working in the kind of in the companies, when we do those kind of things, people usually feel it's a lot of work, and then they feel exhausted after they have participating. But then here, most of the participants left those sessions feeling highly empowered and feel happy. And the reason for that is, like it's often actually the first time they can stutter openly, and then, and then feel kind of there's no judgment, which, is a really powerful, experience, because a lot of them has been used to try to hide and to kind of feel ashamed about how they stutter. But then this context of having another person who stutter that, truly allow them to feel safe and to kind of celebrate, their pattern of speaking rather than feel bad about it. So the top reason, for participants to feel happy is, they feel they are making a solid contribution to the stuttering community at large, and then they feel this is a very relaxed and safe session, that they can have these kind of heart-to-heart, one-on-one conversations with another person who stutter, and then have this kind of very powerful communal experience. Okay, so leveraging this data that we have collected, we were able to benchmark the kind of popular ASR models, and to just measure the gap between fluent and stutter speech. So here I'm showing the character error rate for two highly popular models, Wave to Whack from Meta, and Whisper from OpenAI, and showing how they performing on the command dictation speech that we have recorded. So as you can see here, the first thing we notice is there is a big gap between the model's performance on stutter speech and the baseline, which is fluent speech, is the red line here, which is 7.7. So even for mild stuttering, those model has a lot more trouble processing it compared to fluent speech. And also the percentage of errors increases with stuttering severity, which means, the more stuttering there is in the speech, the harder it is for those model to handle them. Um, and we also want to point out kind of Whisper actually perform interestingly because it's one of the strongest model right now. And then it also actually did perform slightly better in the kind of less severe cases. However, when it comes to severe stuttering, it has a hard time handling it. We have noticed that Whisper tend to smooth over the the output text, which means it tend to remove a lot of things to make the text less smooth, and then it's also more likely to hallucinate. Means that it will just output something really have nothing to do with the audio when it comes to very severe stuttering. Um, okay, so knowing the challenge of those models, we also try fine-tuning those models. So here, the lighter color shows those models, the uh, the performance before fine-tuning, and the dark bar shows their performance after fine-tuning. And then we can notice that, like the percentage of errors decreases for all models after fine-tuning, which is just shows that it's largely feasible to kind of improve those models and to make them more stuttering friendly, giving more diverse speech data. Okay, so that's kind of what I have to share today. There are a lot of exciting things that we want to do next, starting with, expanding current work to more languages, and then also to kind of share our data sets to allow more researchers to kind of make use of them. And then we'd like to also build more metrics and more models that are just more diverse and and inclusive to diverse speech patterns. And then lastly, we also think it's not enough to kind of stop at the modeling side. It's important to kind of consider and to build experiences and product using those more diverse models, and to kind of measure and to understand how does that impact people who stutter in a kind of deeper um, at the emotional and social level. So that's all I have. I'm ready to take questions.
Thank you, Shaomei, for wonderful sharing your wonderful work and wonderful presentation. I impressed with all this new project you work, and I want to open the floor for question and discussion by the student.
Mhm.
Now, anyone want to uh, ask or comment?
Mhm.
Yes, if that's okay.
Yes,
I
go
couldn't
ahead.
find an option to
No,
kind of
it's
raise my
okay.
hand.
It's okay.
Um,
Just jump in, Patricia.
Dr. Good, first of all, I just want to thank you so much for giving us honestly the opportunity to know about what you're doing. I think it's amazing. I I'm it gives me a little bit of hope to know that there are people out there like you trying to make a difference. That's incredible. Um, I think it's pretty evident to me just from seeing what I see out there and what we're learning in this class, that one of the main issues with the AI developments in general, with technology developments, is that there is a lack of diversity in the people who are developing this technology, right? And I think that contributes a lot to this big gap that we have for these kind of issues where a lot of these the minority groups are being left aside because they're not part of the design or the planning. And I was just wondering, from your perspective, obviously you do this because it's your own personal experience, because it's obviously close to your heart, but why, what do you think needs to happen so that this is not just initiated from the perspective of people who are suffering from these things? What do you think needs to, what do you think is the challenge from that's stopping all these companies or corporations from actually engaging with the minorities to try to solve these problems, and include people like you and others into the initial design of all this technology from the get-go?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Good, good, questions. Thank you for raising it. I have thought a lot on this because, like myself, for a long time, I was actually part of the tech world, like I was trying to kind of pushing things from inside. And I think partially because my own my own lived experiences as somebody with the with an intersectional kind of background. And but I feel I come to the conclusion that within the kind of system of the kind of the tech companies, there is really a lack of kind of incentives to cater the need of those who are left behind, or who are kind of marginalized, because the kind of bottom line for the company is to kind of maximize profit. And so I feel like my approach in the end is to kind of leave that world and then to kind of find AImpower, and then trying to remove profit as a kind of driver, and to trying to find a way to build technology in a more sincere way. I mean, so far, I think we have done something useful, but I don't think I have the answer of what kind of fundamentally change, how kind of tech is built. I myself is also trying. I'm trying to just find a new kind of a new path forward, rather than kind of following what the conventional technology approach and the kind of model is. And we will see, I guess.
Thank you so much.
Next question, comment.
I have one question. First
Yes.
of all, thank you so much for the beautiful work and presentation. I kept thinking about the less useful applications of AI throughout this presentation. Like, for example, we build self-driving taxis, but there is no shortage of drivers. So things like your work is the best application of AI. So I really appreciate your work. My question is stuttering a physiological problem, or it's more of emotional? Because knowing the root cause may push, the application of AI in more areas than just fixing the speech pattern and improving transcription and that kind of stuff.
So are you talking about like how can we solve stuttering for, like how can we fix like stuttering on the kind of on the like individual level?
Yes. So it's helping speech therapists with more technology, with more AI.
Yeah. Um, That's an interesting question because I think so far all the technology for those who stutter has been really kind of fixated at fixing at changing how we talk, and then to kind of making we talk in a more like code to code like normal way. Which I think kind of still carry these like discriminations against certain pattern of speech, as if and kind of reinforcing this notion of like differency is bad, rather than that's just how I talk. I mean, like I can at the same time I can see why some people who stutter want to talk differently, because it is hard, like even now I feel physically hard, to talk because of this tension that caused by stuttering. But then at the same time, speaking is always a two-way thing. And stuttering really arises not only because how my kind of how my like my body works, was also as a reaction to a lot of the kind of reactions of my audience. So I feel at least at AImpower, our focus is first to kind of changing the environment to make sure that all kind of speech is respected, rather than focus on changing people who stutter. Because I feel with a lot of disability, there is all kind of marginalized set of people. We are already doing more work than we should to kind of pass certain kind of standard that is set by those people outside, which I think this this kind of effort, that's required for somebody to pass, it's inherently unfair. And I think to speaking, the goal is to connect. And then, for that kind of like the connection to be formed, this work should be shared by two sides, both those people who are talking and the audience. So our philosophy is, first to kind of make sure this world is ready to kind of listen better, then to fix people who stutter so then they can talk in certain way.
Yes.
Okay, we have 10 minutes left. Any more questions? Comment?
I have one more, if you don't
Okay,
mind.
good.
I just wanted to ask you, and this, I open it for both of you. We talk in class a lot about education, right? Like that's what we need. We need education. We need to educate people. But I feel, and it puzzles me a lot, right? Like education is already very biased. Education is already very non-fair. Not everyone has access to the same privileges of education. Education doesn't get to everyone, right, in the same way. And with something like your project and many other projects, I think educating, it's a big thing, it's a big part of it. But like, I guess, like, how do we make sure that, potentially a lot of the people who suffer from stutter might not be able to get this, education, and they might not be benefiting from things like this just because they're not just at the same playing field as everyone else. So what, like, I know this is like a huge question, but it's like, how do we start making sure that, we really try to reach these little corners, which are probably the ones that are going to need it the most, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like in my view, I feel like I do see the kind of the importance of education, but I also don't think that it have to be very formal. I feel like every time when I go to talk to somebody who's stutter, just in a kind of like informal, like the social settings. I'm kind of trying to doing my part of education, maybe less formal way. So then, for example, with our like the data collection work, we share it to, we can talk about it to hundreds and thousands of folks who stutter. We post on like on the on forums, like by people who stutter. And I went to multiple podcasts on stuttering. And then I went to conferences that kind of talk about it. So I think as a result, we were able to like mobilize a lot of folks to kind of come together and to complete this data work. We're seeing a much kind of short time than we thought we could. So and then in that process, everyone participate in the recording. We like that recording is not, just we talk about music, weather. It's like we talk about how it feels to, how we live as as somebody stutter. So then even this recording process, it's a kind of like the kind of self advocacy effort, like. And now we're hoping by kind of sharing those content, sharing those real pains that we have seen, like, like we can also enable the kind of the larger research in communities to kind of hear and to learn about what it feels like to stutter. So I feel like education just in everything that we do, and then in how we talk about it. So I'm hoping by doing a lot more things, like how I come here, talk to you guys about, we can all do the part of just gradually changing the world.
And my comment is I can see the fifth what next for Empower will be more like policy and governance uh, engagement in our, when they were working on AI, AGI policy. I think that could be. I am sure that it might follow up with your next project.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like
Yeah.
so far, our code is, all those like modeling work and the
Yeah.
code actually is like largely kind of done by those who
Mhm.
starter.
Yeah.
So, so I feel by just kind of
Yeah.
mentoring folks to kind of do the work,
Mhm.
and then we can build capacity and build the kind of the kind of like confidence to kind of take larger changes later too.
So this is the time. Time is up. Thank you so much for our special guest lecture and all the student, all your questions and your to be here. And yes, this lecture will be recorded and posted on my YouTube channel, contributing to the open education informal income as a way to contribute to ethic or responsible AI education informally way. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much,
Thank you
Professor.
all.
Thank you so much.